Welcome back to Kevin's Trooper channel. This is the channel where we do all types of DIY projects out here in the garage, and I've made an important decision about the garage today. At least it's important and exciting to me. I have decided that it's no longer feasible to try to park the Super Duty in here and switch all of that around and do projects and fabrication in here on the weekends. So the Super Duty is kicked out of the garage, and I'm going to be turning this into a full-time home fabrication shop. That opens up so much space in here for me to do projects and for me to put permanent tables up. I'm going to put a big welding table right here in the middle. I'm going to be moving my 220 plug from outside inside the garage where I can plug my welder in here in the garage. And yeah, we're making this a full-time home fabrication shop. I've got most of the tools already. I'm just so tired of having to keep everything so put away in order to fit that Super Duty in here, and I have like 6 or 8 inches all the way around. It's really a hassle to try to pull all of that out, put everything away, and then back the truck out. It's just too much. Now, the first project that we're going to do today is I'm going to build a real heavy-duty table to keep my Fein Slugger cold chop saw on. I have some leftover material from my rock sliders that I welded up and built on the Trooper. It's, I think, 1.5 by 3, and it's heavy stuff. And I have some leftover 1.5 inch tubing, square tubing, that I used in my last project. And so we're going to put all of that together and make a really cool table stand to put the Fein Slugger on coming up. Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to take some 1.5 inch square tubing, 16 inches by 22 inches, and we're going to weld a frame. And then I started to put a cross frame across this way because all I have is some really thin 1/8 inch plate to put across the top. But I got to thinking, I'm not really interested in strength across the middle. I have 4 legs on that chop saw that go like so. And so instead of doing one across here, I don't care about strength in the middle. There's nothing sitting there. I'm going to take 4 cross pieces and put them like so. And that way, where the legs sit will be nice and strong and level. And then I'll take this rectangular tubing and make 4 28 inch long legs. And I'm going to do some 1/2 inch bolts in the caps on the bottom like we did on the planter project so that we can adjust the levelness of this. Once we get it up, we'll cap this bottom and we'll put some 1/2 inch bolts in there. Should be a great little project. I'm excited to get started. One of the really neat things that I've learned by watching some of the professionals on YouTube like Jimbo's Garage and Chucky 2009 and WeldingTipsandTricks.com, one of the things that I've learned most about watching them is the order that they do things. They all have a tendency to cut all of their pieces out first, or at least most of them, and get it all set off to the side. And then, once they start leveling and tacking, they have a bunch of pieces and they're able to put it all together very efficiently. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to set my new cutting stand up the same height as my chop saw. So I'm just going to put a level on there, and I'll raise this up until I am level with my chop saw. Tighten that down. Should be good to go. So I'm cutting out my frame for the top. Alright, one of the things I like to do is come over here to the sander and knock this really sharp corner off right here. It's really hard to weld if this corner is very, very sharp. If you put a little flat spot on here, it gives you something to bite your weld into whenever you butt these 2 pieces up. So I like to take this sharp corner off of there. Guys, listen, it's getting hotter out here in South Louisiana. It's already getting into the 80s and 90s. And instead of wearing that welding jacket all the time, I got these welding sleeves. It's gonna be way better in the summertime. That jacket gets hot. I'm usually dripping with sweat out here by the time I get done. And so I think these little sleeves are gonna be a great little addition. They weren't expensive at either. I mean, I'm talking like, I think they're less than 20 bucks. They're all fire retardant, really nice. I'll put a link to these for you guys if you want to check those out. They're really cool. All right, I've decided I want to make my little brace pieces 8 inches long. All right, there's our top. Having to stitch these in a little bit so I don't burn through. All right, we're gonna start cutting out our legs now. Pretty cool, huh?
I'm scared of my fingers.
Look at how smooth it cuts it. Pretty cool. That thing will chew up the metal, cuz. And that worked out perfect. This is the piece that I had left over out of that joint of metal that I've been holding on to since I did my rock slider build on the Trooper. It's been up in the bracing up there for, I don't know, a year, and I finally used it, and all I had was this little piece. So it worked out perfect. I'm cutting out a cap to go on the bottom of this so that I can put a bolt and a screw in there. And what I want to do, I want to cut it just big enough that it's going to fit right in the middle of this 1/8 inch wall thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm just going to make an impression, an imprint of my end cap. And now I'm going to cut that out with some scissors, and I'll be able to make a very accurate line in order to be able to cut out my caps. All right, so I'm just getting these all ground down and finished up, making sure they're going to fit nicely on our end caps here. Listen, you guys may notice I'm wearing a new pair of welding gloves. I can't do crap with these gloves on. This was, I think, a $15 or $20, maybe even less than that, pair of welding gloves. My theory on these welding gloves is they take such a beating. I'm always hitting this with the grinder or cutting a hole in my welding glove, or they just don't last. It's just, they take a beating. I don't buy an expensive pair of welding gloves for that reason. If you cut a hole in them, you can cut a hole in an $18 pair just like you could cut a hole in a $60 pair. It's much better to buy a cheap pair and then just replace them when things go bad. And here are the leftover bolts that I had, and you know, this just goes more with my theory about always buy extra bolts. I would not want to be running to the hardware store right now, but I've got these really thick 1/2 inches that are going to work perfect for this project. Pretty sure I got 4 of them here. And that hole is not going to be big enough. Alright, that's all we needed. Alright, let's see if that one's gonna work. Yep. Alright guys, I'm finally back filming today. It's been about 3 hours or 4 hours now. I had to put a hold on my project My mom brought her RAV4 over to have the 45,000 mile oil change done and rotate her tires. If you know about Toyotas, they have this plastic oil fill housing. Instead of just a metal oil filter that you buy, it's a cartridge that you take that housing off and replace it. Well, as I was cranking that thing off, it cracked. It was on there too tight, and when I was taking it off, it cracked and it got a hole in it. I didn't notice it. So I changed her oil, put it all back together, filled up her oil, did all her service, started it up. The entire 4.5 quarts of oil leaked onto my garage floor. So I got it cleaned up the best that I could. That concrete right there is probably always going to have that circle on it. It was a huge mess. We had to go to the dealer, get a new oil filter housing. It was a disaster. It took up almost half my day. So anyway, I'm back. Let's get started on this project again. I definitely don't like these gloves as good as those other ones. Yeah, I can't do crap with these gloves on. They're just not quite as comfortable and easy to work in. This 18.5 volts with 250 wire feed speed really is a great setting for a lot of this general fabrication work. Now, I learned in the last project, if you're going to do these bolts to adjust the height of your legs, it's better off grinding all of your welds and getting this smooth and then doing the nuts, because this is really hard to grind with the nut on there. These gloves definitely don't have the dexterity of those other welding gloves that I got, and they were cheaper than these. So I wouldn't recommend these. It's nice welding in these shorts though. That's a little bit of a risk. So I'm screwing these nuts all the way onto their bolts so that I don't mess the threads up. I try to get both sides of those nuts tacked before it cools. A weld will contract in the direction of cooling. So if I weld this side, it has a tendency to pull the nut loose on the opposite side. So I'm trying to weld both sides before it gets loose. This leg right now is level this way. It's not level this way. The top needs to come towards me. So if I put my first couple of tacks on this outside to get it level one direction, the tacks, when they cool, they will want to pull the metal this direction. Everything looks really good right there. There it is. I wonder how crooked it is. I wonder how straight we got it. I got it as straight as I could get it. It looks like I got some grinding to do and lots of it. And here it is. I'm ready to put the top on, do a finish on it, and we'll be cutting off this table with the chop saw fairly soon. I'm excited. It turned out great. This will be here when all of us are long gone. You know, I can never make a perfect cut with this thing. I don't know why. It's like I'm dragging it and it's cutting and then it just stops. It'll just kind of blow back and then it'll cut and then it'll blow back. I don't know why. I don't know if I have water in my air. I'm just having a lot of trouble making a good weld. I'm uncomfortable. I can't get steady. I'm not taking my time. I gotta get it together and make some better looking weld. I'll get there. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm just stitching it a little bit, letting it cool. I don't want to overheat this. I have decided that I want to put a shelf on the bottom. So I'm going to get some metal down and we're going to start that shelf. And this is a very handy little storage rack that I've put up here above my garage door. All right, there we go. All right, guys, I'm switching back to my old gloves. Those new gray gloves that I bought, don't recommend them. These have been great though. I'll put a link for you guys of these gloves right here. They have been really nice. All right, let's tack this thing up. Oh, perfect. Guys, one of the habits I'm trying to get out of is holding my face right down here by the weld. That's a rookie move, and I'm trying to get out of that habit. I just don't remember all the time. All right, here's what I've decided I want to do with this. I'm going to take this flat bar, and across the bottom of this shelf, I'm going to put one running down the center, and then I'll put one on each side running across this way. If you guys didn't see my last video, I learned a really big lesson, and it cost me a lot of aggravation whenever I was building that plant stand for my mom. I just went and welded this whole thing up as fast as I could all the way around, and it ended up cooling and bowing in the middle. The best way to do this is start on each side right here in the middle and weld here and weld over and let it cool as it works its way out. Alright guys, what I'm doing now is I'm just taking a little bit of muscle grease and I'm putting it on every one of these bolts because they're just a little hard to turn. They got a little bit of BBs on them and they're a little bit rough to turn. Just a little bit of muscle grease on there and they're smooth as could be. It's a little heavier than like a WD-40, but it's lighter than the grease you dip out of a bucket. I've never seen this in AutoZone or anywhere. The first person I saw use this was Eric O from South Main Auto. Very, very good product. I'll link this in the description. Amazon's the only place I've found this. All right, I'm gonna use one of these little purple paint removal discs to get the rest of this mill scale off the top of this. These things are great for removing mill scale and not damaging the surface of the metal. Just watch how great these discs are at mill scale. I mean, there's nothing else that's able to do that quickly. It's always kind of bittersweet when a project finishes up. You know, you're having so much fun building it, and then you kind of look up and it's done, you know? Nobody can say this thing is underbuilt. That's for sure. I think it's worthy of the Fein Slugger. Well, here it is, all finished up. I consider this my most successful project to date. I'm more proud of this than anything that I've built so far. I went ahead and adjusted my height of my stand so that it matches the height of my saw. I used some of this diamond plate matting, this rubber matting, to go in between the saw and the tabletop for a little bit of vibration dampening. It's all set up and ready to start cutting. And this is going to set the shop up one more step closer to beginning that rear bumper build on the Trooper. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this project. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join our great community that we have on this channel. And give me a thumbs up, because you know it means